Nina Simone, Lord have mercy. Love it, love it, love it. Good morning and welcome to Experience Talks. My name is Bobby Zeno. Every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. we bring you guests and topics that will enhance your experience. Experience Talks is about positive aging, growth, expansion, and self-realization. It's about delving into the art of life. Life is the art of drawing without an eraser, James. In youth, we learn. In age, we understand. Experience is one thing that you can't get enough of. This morning, we are in our third and final segment of our Tuskegee Airmen series. Next week, Dr. Connie Corley will have a wonderful segment for you, as she always does. I want to thank my friend and partner, my co-host and longtime friend, Mr. Tim Carpenter, for supporting me with the Tuskegee Airmen series. And I want to thank Cynthia Friedlob for her social networking and website efforts. Experience Talks consists of 3 rotating radio personalities and hosts, whereby we'll share with you every Saturday morning, 8 o'clock, beautiful and wonderful experiences with dynamic and most interesting guests like we have this morning. National, international, and local brilliance right here on KPFK 90.7 FM in Los Angeles and 98.7 FM in Santa Barbara. The movie Red Tails, the film by George Lucas inspired by the Tuskegee Airmen, opened up yesterday. And it was a good to great movie, and we're going to talk about it this morning with a collective of bright and engaging people, Farrell Childs, Lowell Stewart, and James Burks. We'll be right back after this musical interlude. Love that woman, Nina Simone, Rebellion. So we're back, Experience Talks. As I said, we're in our the third and final segment of our Tuskegee Airmen series, and we have 3 incredible guests this morning. Farrell Childs is an author of a book, As Big as It Gets, now working on his second book, The Best Man I Can Be. Farrell Childs also is an author of several articles on the history of African-American warrant officers and is a collector of books on African-Americans in the military. He serves on the board of directors for the Tuskegee Airmen Scholarship Foundation and is the vice president for resource development. Lowell Stewart, Jr. is the president of the L.A. chapter of Tuskegee Airmen and son of the original Tuskegee Airmen fighter pilot Lowell Stewart, Sr. And then there's James Burke, is a cultural icon with the city of Los Angeles, brainchild of the African Marketplace, former director of LA Cultural Affairs, William Grant Still Arts Center, cultural ambassador to Brazil, Cuba, and Ghana, among other countries. We want to welcome gentlemen to the show.
Good morning, Bobby.
Good morning, Bobby.
Okay, so you've all seen Red Tails, and let me start by saying, do you guys like the film to begin with? And if so, why? Let's go with Farrell Childs. How you doing, Farrell?
I'm doing good. Thank you very much. Hey, I enjoyed the movie. As a matter of fact, I've seen the movie twice already.
Okay, and you loved it. Okay, James Burks, what do you...
I'm like Farrell Childs. I saw the movie twice. I saw it on Tuskegee Airmen's Night, and I saw it again last night. And I had to see it twice because, you know, the first time you spend so much time looking at those young actors in the film and some of the technology, and the second time I got into more of the work. You know, so I enjoyed it.
And Lowell Stewart.
Yes, the movie was... Hi, Bobby. How you doing?
Yeah.
The movie was spectacular. Enjoyed it thoroughly. I've seen it twice already myself, and I'm going to probably see it 2 more times. Just totally loved it.
So were you guys able to get a reaction of how others felt about the Red Tails after the movie was over? Was there, what was the reaction to the film from others? What did you get a sense of?
I thought it was just exciting for everyone to be there. There was talk in the audience afterwards, in the foyer, the lobbies. Everyone was just so jazzed. Even before they went in to see the movie, they were really jazzed about it. And coming out afterwards, same reaction.
Yeah, I agree with Lo. I think they did a good job in marketing the film, and particularly in our community, because with today's technology, it's so much easier to make people aware of what's going on. But I think the night of the screening with the Tuskegee Airmen was exciting just for that reason alone. And then their excitement looking at their faces afterwards. And then last night when I saw it with a lot of colleagues, a lot of friends, actors, and all. In fact, I had great comments from both the actors and the audiences, because the lines were full last night at the rave. And I think the audience genuinely loved it, loved seeing a film about them, loved seeing a film without a lot of cursing, without a lot of negatives, with a film that really depicted what we could accomplish in this country. And I think people were just genuinely excited about it.
Farrell, did you get any reaction from the people?
Oh, definitely. They were amazed. I'm not sure what their expectations were when they went into the movie, but when they came out, they were overwhelmed. It was a good portrayal of what the 332nd did during that time in history. The movie was well directed, well acted. There were stories within the story. It just ran the full gamut of what you would expect in an outstanding movie.
So, Farrell, on the scale 1 to 10, 10 being best score, what's Farrell Childs going to give this?
Well, I'm coming out with a 10.
Wow.
I'm
coming out with a 10. Lord have mercy. Okay, how about you, James?
Well, I'm biased. I'm from theater and I'm from film and television, but, in my heart, because of the education, the entertainment value, the technology of it, the directorial, and actually seeing a bunch of young, unknown actors, I'd have to give it the same. I just enjoyed it from that perspective.
Tink, tink, 10, 10. Okay, Lowell Stewart, Jr.
Well, now I'm afraid to give my assessment. I'm not a film critic, number one, but I did thoroughly love the movie. But on a scale of 1 to 10, I have to give it an 8. I think there were some flaws. Just looking at it from an Academy movie standard, which is not our standard, by the way, I gave it an 8 because I think there were some areas, and especially because I knew some of the history. It appeared that some of the dialogue, when it came to the points of history, tried to force those points of history out instead of letting it flow in a natural context.
Yeah, and I agree with that as well.
But other than that...
But then again, your daddy was a fighter pilot, and you have all that history, so you know better than most about the real deal.
Exactly. And if I did not know those things, those minor flaws would be overlooked or even not even noticed by anyone else at all.
So does Red Tails appeal to the youth? Does it appeal to young adults, middle-aged folks, and elders? Do you think they'll find it an exhilarating experience, inspirational?
Absolutely. I think every young person should see this movie, not from a history standpoint, but because it's an entertaining depiction of our story, and it's about people that they can actually aspire to be.
James?
Yeah, I think so. I think having over the last few years not seeing very many films about us in general, I think it'd be appealing to all, particularly elders who know the awards that were missed by a lot of black men who fought for this country. I think it's appealing from that factor. I think it's appealing to young people because these were young people in this film, virtually many of them unknown actors in this film, but it looks like them. So I think it's very appealing to young people. I think there's appeal to women because it showed black men in a very positive light. So I think it's very appealing. And you can be appealing on a number of different levels. Those who want to seek education, those who want to be entertained. And it was shot very well. And I just think that's appealing.
And Farrell, what do you think about that?
Well, Well, I believe that it's very entertaining and inspirational for young folks. I also believe that it has a certain appeal for women. But I'm a war buff, so I'm hoping that there are folks in the military that served in World War II and thereafter, and it's appeal for them because it's part of their history as well. So I think it has an appeal to all facets of society, both the youth, the young adults, middle age, elders, African Americans, Caucasians. It's a well done movie that needs to be seen by everyone, and there's something for all of them.
Farrell, let's compare the Red Tails with the 1995 HBO film Tuskegee Airmen. What are the contrasting differences?
Well, they're set in two different periods. The HBO film was about the Tuskegee Airmen, the inception, while they were going through training, what it took to get the Tuskegee Airmen to exist, and some of the conflicts that occurred, some of the issues and problems that were occurring back in early 1940s. So it's a story that led to the current story. Mm-hmm. Now they're over in Europe. They're in a war zone. They're going through the training, so that's not emphasized. They're there to do a mission, and they're more experienced now. They've had their training. I'm hoping that they were focused because they appeared to be that, and they were about the business of war.
Okay. The film Red Tail was shot over 13 weeks in an abandoned Soviet air base outside of Prague. The authenticity of this film, from the landing strip to the uniforms to the boots and bomber jackets to the series of dogfights between Red Tail pilots and Nazi pilots, did you get a feel that George Lucas and Anthony Hemingway went all out to make this film a great film, James?
Yeah, I remember. I think I mentioned to you the other night that I was amazed that he put the landing strip. It was corrugated metal, so that if it rained, that the planes would still have a workable airstrip.
It wouldn't be muddier.
Yeah, I mean, I found it fascinating that they went through details. There were a lot of great details in this film. Even the costumes were very much 1940s. And I just thought so. And then the fact that they shot it in Prague, also was very exciting to me because he took great pains to ensure that he gave the audience something that was realistic.
We're talking to James Burks, Farrell Childs, and Lowell Stewart Jr. About the Tuskegee Airmen film, George Lucas's film, actually, called Red Tails. And in a couple of minutes, we're going to open the lines up for those who we want to hear from our public, from our community, on those who have seen the movies, to get your response to the movie. You can call us at 818-985-5735. 818-985-5735. If you want to call and you have comments about the movie that you'd like to make, we'd love to hear them from you. Okay, Lowell, there was the night that we did the private screening, there was a capacity-packed crowd that Wednesday where the audience didn't even know that there was an original Tuskegee Airmen pilot amongst them. That was our fault, of course. He was your dad, Lowell Stewart Sr. What was your dad's reaction to the movie?
He had an amazing reaction. Normally when he goes to the theater, he's asleep by the time they're running the promo trailers, but he was sitting there, and he's wheelchair bound, so he was propped up and wide-eyed and just fascinated and fixated on the entire movie from beginning to end. He didn't nod once. He smiled at several scenes. He just thoroughly enjoyed himself so much to the point, and he's invalid. So he told me that he wants to see it again.
Wow.
And I can't believe that he never goes to the theater hardly at all. And he decided, hey, I want to see this movie again. He just loved it that much.
Tell us a little something about your dad, too. He's a very important person to the Tuskegee Airmen, as well as to Los Angeles. Give us a little thumbnail on your dad.
For the longest time, he was almost Mr. Los Angeles. He knew everybody. He grew up here, and he was in the community, prominent real estate broker. He knew every place and everybody that was anything in the city. But also, he was the founder of the Los Angeles chapter of Tuskegee Airmen. So he was heavily entrenched in that, and he's also the founder of the Scholarship Foundation, which is a national foundation that gives out about between 40 and 50 scholarships a year to deserving high school graduates. So he is a really self-made man, and it's so why he is a red-tail pilot. It was typical of him to excel after those training years, just because that's the way he is.
The George Lucas special effects and computerized magic, did it work in Red Tails? What did you guys, was it tastefully done, James?
I think it was. I mean, it's traditional. Today's films are done a lot like that, But I think this one was tastefully done. I think the dogfights were wonderfully choreographed. So I enjoyed it. It didn't take away from the story at all.
For special effect value, contrasting Red Tails and, say, Avatar, does Red Tails become the black answer for Avatar for special effects and computerization?
I'm not interested in comparing Red Tails to Avatar, but but I think they both have their own audience. I think this is done much more sensitively to the story, and I enjoyed it much more than I would have said that. Avatar is just simple entertainment for me, but I think Red Tails was done.
This is a real story.
Exactly, it had to enhance what these guys went through. These guys were courageous, man. And I think the special effects added to the courageousness of these pilots.
I guess what I'm trying to get into, there's a new trend in these where movies are going, and the Avatar and then now you have a real story, Tuskegee Airmen, they apply the same kind of thing.
Yeah, but most of them are trying to replace the actors. These did not. The actors were the story in this film.
Yes. Farrell, is this an American film or a black film?
You know what? It's both. Because it's a story about America in World War II. It tells about those times. But it's also a black film because it was a predominantly black cast, not entirely black cast, but predominantly black cast, and they perform well. So it tells a story about the American story. So it's an American film. It talks about a time in our history, but it has significance because it's also a black film that reaches out to African Americans to broaden our history and our ability to perform and tell our story.
Let's stay with Farrell for a minute. If Red Tail flops, Farrell, are African American audiences to blame?
Of course not, because I think African American audiences will support it. And as I was saying, it's an American film, so you would hope that others would support it as well because it's part of their history as well.
James, if Red Tails flops,
I agree. I would agree with Farrell. I don't think so. I mean, the history of black films in Hollywood, and the history when Hollywood got in trouble, they'd make a black film. There's an audience for it, and I don't think it will flop. I think if there's going to be any issue, it's going to be issue with how the counting is done, and that's something that's out of control.
Wow.
Out of our control anyway. But I think black audiences are going to go see this film not just once, but, like Lowell Senior, they're going to go see it twice, maybe 3 times, because I'm going to go back and see it again.
Wow. Does Lucas pull the curtain, so to speak, all the way back to let us see the extent of racism that existed in the armed forces in the 40s, Lowell?
I don't think he did. I'm thinking that maybe wasn't his focus. Maybe we have seen enough of those types of movies for it to be the selling point. The selling point, I believe, for George Lucas was the fact that it was an amazing story. And rather than just go into those dark areas, it was touched upon. But I think that wasn't the main focus of the movie. The main focus, I believe, was the capabilities of these men.
Yeah, I agree. I think he had a little conflict, and then he got rid of it real quickly in resolution. And some of the issues that were higher up in the chain of command of the services. But basically, I think it was on the story. It was about the men who gave their lives and the men who were so bright and brilliant, and courageous, and to dispel all the rumors and stereotypes of African Americans in the armed services.
Now, Terrence Howard stars as Colonel A.J. Bullard, and his character is loosely based upon the Benjamin O. Davis. Does he come across as strong as say, a Benjamin O. Davis, Farrell?
Well, I wish he had called him Benjamin O. Davis.
Yeah.
That's basically the role that he portrayed. But he was effective, and he performed as Benjamin Davis, meaning that he had to go back to the Pentagon and fight for his soldiers and his airmen. And he did an excellent job of that, and they got the opportunity to excel by taking on missions that they knew they were capable of doing.
Yeah, I agree, Farrell. I think that it wasn't the focus on him; it was the focus on the lines. His relationship with dealing with those who were in power to direct what was going to happen with his men. I think he took care of that quite well, and I think I had to go back and see it again because between his character and Cuba Gooding's character, I had some challenges with it the first time I saw it, but I was completely at ease when I saw it again last night.
Lowell?
Well, I'm thinking that the character, from what I've read about Benjamin Davis, that he was a very strong-minded, aggressive person, and I thought the typecasting of this role didn't reveal that. But again, that wasn't a major part of the movie. The movie was more focused on the accomplishments rather than the behind-the-scenes things.
In Red Tail, you guys, is there a powerful depiction of the black experience? And how is Lieutenant Little perceived by his fellow pilots? You remember the lightning?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah, I think he was respected, because even Terrence Howard and his character told him he's the best pilot on the base, and he was also smart. He was also he had the kind of mentality to deal with all of the men on the base, both personally and otherwise. And I loved how they picked his love interest, and it just wasn't going after every white woman, Mm-hmm. People forget that Hannibal came across the Alps a long time ago. The Moors were always in Italy, so that's why you see a big, and I think that was part of what we were trying to see here. And I think his fellow pilots had a lot of respect for him.
It was just one of probably thousands of relationships that occurred, and that occurred they were in Italy, they were in France, they were,
It wasn't new to us.
Yeah, it was nothing new. Farrell, do you have anything to say about that?
Well, I think we all know characters like Little, and I was really impressed with not his leadership in combat, but the way he interacted with the other flyers and pilots when they were having briefings and just in a social aspect. I'm sure he was a composite of a lot of people, but I thought that the actor played the role well, that the script was written to enhance his ability to perform and center around him. So I thought he did well as a pilot and how he interacted, and I thought that his fellow pilots thought highly of him because of his accomplishments in leadership.
We have a caller on the line. I'd like to hear from them, so we can go to line 1.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you? And welcome to Experience Talks.
Yeah, this is Joshua from Hollywood. I'm really enjoying the programming, and I'm familiar with Tuskegee a little bit more historically than with films. I've seen a couple of the earlier films, and since the current film that you guys are discussing this morning isn't really going to go into some of the factors of that the real challenges besides being smart and brave and handsome and hard working and trying to get on over these fellows into the Army was that it was more the challenge of actually getting into it, that they had to prove that they actually, some people died, many people got hurt, many were turned away, and they should have gotten into that program. And I was wondering if any historians this morning could tell us a little bit more about that, so that after people see the Lucasfilm, they'll go and understand that there was a much deeper thing going on here. And I'd love to hear your comments off the air. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Farrell, do you want to address that?
Well, the Tuskegee Airmen experience in combat was just not good in the sense that they were able to accomplish all their missions, et cetera. I mean, we lost lives there. I forget the number of pilots that were killed, somewhere around, I think, 62 or so. But in addition to that, the story also talked about prisoner wars, and we had several Tuskegee Airmen that became prisoners of war. And the story touched upon that. So in a 2-hour period, the story was about the bravery and the courageousness of these Tuskegee Airmen. It didn't tell the entire story, but it gave us, or hopefully it gave the audience, a thirst to go and find out more about the Tuskegee Airmen through documentaries, through books. I know personally I have 20 books on just the Tuskegee Airmen in my collection.
My goodness, I didn't know there was that many.
And there's more.
Wow.
You have Tuskegee Airmen writing their own personal stories, but you also have other writers and authors writing about the Tuskegee Airmen, and not just them in totality, but even the 332nd Fighter Group, which the movie was about.
Farrell, we've just run out of time, and just when it was getting good, we got to go now. So I want to thank all my guests for coming on the air on Experience Talks, Farrell Childs, Lowell Stewart Jr., and James Burks. And we want to thank the caller for calling in and making this. Remember to go to experiencetalks.org and get to all the shows, the one on the 7th, the 14th, and now this one, if you missed it. So we want to thank Alejandro for doing a wonderful job, and stay tuned for Uncle Ruthie.